Mental health is an increasingly relevant topic in the modern world, with college students especially who are presenting to counseling and psychological services in record numbers. Issues such as anxiety and depression are prevalent among young people, and left untreated can be debilitating for their academic and social success. This is a topic of vital importance not just to our youth, but is of personal importance to me as well. I am 26 years old and still currently completing my undergrad. I initially floundered in my attempts at college because of severe depression. My first time at college was in the fall of 2012 when I began courses at Georgia College State University in Milledgeville, Georgia. I was extraordinarily excited to start college for the first time. Unfortunately, shortly after I started my classes, I fell into a bad mental state. I received concern from my parents and my friends about how I was doing. My mother sent me a text message once asking me why I didn't go out more, why I wasn't going out with friends or joining any clubs on campus instead of staying in my room all the time. After all, you're only in college once, she said. And she was right. I should have been going out more and doing more things. But the fact that I wasn't should have been seen as a red flag. One of the foremost symptoms of depression is a lack of interest and social withdrawal. I was also falling behind on my daily chores, my responsibilities. I wasn't keeping up with my health, my brushing my teeth, my exercising, and when it came time to do laundry, I could make it to down the hall to do the laundry, but I find myself little motivation to fold my clothes or put them away once I had done them. It became that much more difficult, very little energy. My academic performance was even worse. I began missing class. I received worried messages from my friends asking me where I had been. I felt very little energy to do my schoolwork, and it found it difficult to pay attention in class or to take notes. Hard time concentrating. And towards the end of one semester in particular, I remember I hadn't done very well, and I went to my math professor hoping that she could help me prepare for my final exam, which of course I hadn't been to see her any other point during the semester, and she saw my coming in as an attempt to rectify, a semester full of lazy behavior on my part. But the truth is, I had found it very difficult to find the energy to seek help. I didn't see the point, and so she mistakenly thought that I was being irresponsible. And Laura Miller, writing for Psychology Today, who is of course a licensed clinical social worker, says that some of the hallmarks of depression, lack of motivation and fatigue, can often be mistaken for sloth. However, when you attribute laziness to someone, you're not considering the possibility that there's something else wrong with them, in which case people do not seek treatment when they very well could need it. I wonder if she had known about my condition, would she have been more sympathetic? Sympathy is the key word here. Many people have none because they mistakenly believe that college students, aren't on their own yet, therefore they don't have real problems to worry about, and therefore have no right to be depressed. This is simply untrue. In my own experience, after I had first begun experiencing depression, I reached out to my mom's then boyfriend, who I'd grown close to during their courtship. When I tried to explain to him what was going on, he gave me an answer that was very rude and frankly dismissive and unhelpful. It's this kind of attitude that suggests that people don't have problems, prevents people from seeking treatment where it is very much needed. According to Susan Noonan, MD, it's important to remember that depression does not discriminate. It can happen to anyone, regardless of their age, gender, life stage, their religious choices, and their socioeconomic status. Fortunately, there are others who are more understanding. Dr. Amber Ebert, a professor of education at Georgia Gwinnett College, for example, has said that in her 10 years of experience in higher education, several students have approached her, letting her know that they were dealing with mental health issues, and how she has told me how she handled it.
Full reaction when one comes to me and says, there is something that I want you to know. There's something I think it's important that that could affect my progress, my experience in this course, or my workload, or whatever. My response is all the same, which is to listen, to ask how I could possibly help or support them in any way. And then it just really depends on the individual person and where the conversation goes, from there. I've had students who, will come and talk to me because they don't know what to do, and they're in need of help, guidance, services that I can't necessarily provide. So my role in that case um, is to, refer them to someone or services that we could provide, say, on campus that would help them, because I do have a limit to my abilities, professionally and ethically, what I can help a student with, and what I can't, just because I'm not trained and I don't have experience. But my reaction is always, what can I do? What can I do for you? Is there something
Empathy.
No, that I can, do for you? Sometimes students will come and ask. They will, tell me what their particular situation might be, and say, this is what I need.
Eventually, things got to the point that I felt I had to leave school until I could get my mental health under control. Thankfully, my school, Georgia College State University, and many others have a leave of absence policy, which allows, for certain reasons, medical, etc., reasons, that people can leave school and resume their courses at a later date. And I chose to do so. Some years later, I sought treatment from a professional psychiatrist to get an evaluation done on me. Truth be told, I had sought out this professional because for years I suspected that I was on the autism spectrum. However, in terms of my depression, I learned later on about comorbidity, which is a tendency for certain conditions to go together. For example, many people who present with autism also show signs of ADHD, for example. Similarly, autism spectrum disorder and depression are very common. And I was formally diagnosed in March of 2019. And I was glad I was, because I now had answers and whole pages full of resources to help me where I had long had issues. Although depression is one of the most common mental illnesses on college campuses affecting young people, is by far from the only one. And while depression can seemingly come out of nowhere, other conditions like PTSD can have a more obvious cause, such as the case with Jack Harrison, a student at Georgia Gwinnett College.
I was in a car accident almost 2 years ago, had a little PTSD after. Feel like that's pretty normal. Kind of a traumatic experience, but I was just glad to walk away.
Did you seek treatment for anything? Did you have any accompanying depression or anything like that?
I did not, because at first I thought it was just I was traumatized, and I didn't realize till a few months down the line, after all my flashbacks stopped happening, that I realized it was PTSD. I only had it for a few months, but it wasn't anything I needed treatment for.
Well, do you think that mental health gets the attention it deserves, or do you think there's any misconceptions most people have about it?
Yeah, there's definitely a misconception in the fact that it is serious. A lot of people don't take it seriously, but it's definitely something that needs to be taken seriously. This is something that people don't have control over, and it's really tough to deal with.
Something happened to me a while back that I'd forgotten about until I began work on this project. I was on my way to my next class at Georgia Gwinnett College when I saw they had a booth set out by the fountain. They were always having activities planned on campus. And this was in a mental health awareness group on campus who was planning to speak to the students I passed by. And the girl who was running it asked me to take part in the activity. She asked me to fish a rubber ducky out of a pond at a pool. And I fished it out, and on the bottom of the plastic duck it said "smile," and she meant this as a reminder to people that we all need a little pick-me-up once in a while. And she reminded me that as someone herself who struggles with mental health issues, she said she is not her anxiety, and she'd offer the same approach and attitude to anyone struggling with mental health disorder. And it's oftentimes like this, people wonder how much good they're doing with things like that, or if they're reaching anyone. But I can say most assuredly they reached at least one person. And if they can reach at least one person, then that makes all the difference in the world.